So, episode 6, here we are at Business Belters, and we're talking about the future of the office. So, we've all went through the pandemic, we're obviously still in that, many people are still isolating, but it seems like it's on the cards for August for people to kind of get back into the office and potentially move back. So what I wanted us to talk about today was the future of the workplace. You know, how does that work? How do we see that changing? How do we see the room, things like Zoom or other video channels working with that kind of objective? You want to kick us off, Mark?
Absolutely amazing topic again, John. I think, you know, teleconference software, Zoom, Teams, all that sort of stuff. I think one of the stats was that where we are now, if COVID didn't happen, it would have taken 5 years to get to where we are now with teleconference software. So although all the bad things with COVID and things like that, then it's obviously for Zoom and Teams, it's really grown their businesses massively. It's changed, it's definitely changed the way we do business, changed the way we communicate in life. I daily use Zoom and Teams. I feel that I communicate better with Zoom and Teams because of it with our clients. So previous to COVID, I used to have to go and travel to meet clients, maybe in Aberdeen, maybe down in Cambridge, maybe in Bristol. And it's like a whole day out your day. And that was just to meet them maybe like once a month or once a quarter. Now I'm regularly meeting them every week, you know, really quick call, 25 minutes, 30 minutes.
Just jump on, jump off.
You know, share your screen. And it's great to see how these teleconference tools have really kind of grown. Because as a marketer, we've used like webinars as a lead generation tool. And we used to use like lots of different tools like GoToMeeting, etc. And there was lots of things with bandwidth issues. You know, going on to a call and it's like, you know, very jittery, and everybody's obviously experienced that. So if you're in a business-to-business world and you were using the teleconference software, you would have experienced it at some stage where it's the bandwidth issues and you can't hear them and people dropping off. But this was a regular thing at the start and a regular thing with the issue. And just to see how some of these products have just grown, so you now get, you know, the blurry background.
So it's like a proper DSLR camera, like professional shot.
Professional shot, so that you look better. Because I don't know how many times that you went in and there's somebody's like bedroom and their clothes are all over the place and all that type of stuff. So
you were watching my Zooms again?
I wasn't talking about you. Yes, I was. I think it's definitely. Business wouldn't have happened. See, if we didn't have this type of software, business wouldn't have happened. I don't know how we would have kept on communicating with each other.
It's a good point when you look at things like the Spanish flu. So I think about that quite a lot actually, like in history. So if this had happened at another time, what would have happened? So people are like kind of moaning about like being based in their house and being restricted, and I get it. But if you think about it, we're in such a rich kind of time where there's like YouTube and Netflix and Spotify and video conferencing, lots of team share kind of software as well. I noticed that in Vision quite recently they've launched a thing like Whiteboard that allows teams to work remotely. So it's allowing teams to sort of like collaborate and say, here's a bit of a sequence, got some ideas here, chuck in your comments, and it allows them to kind of engage like that. And we've used that for years with things like maybe Google Docs or, I mean, I'm sure like Office kind of stuff, probably what's similar now because it runs in the cloud. But it's that type of thing, is you're noticing that exactly that, the collaboration online is just increasing and it's like going faster and faster and faster.
Because I use that, because again, I teach marketing, and we had to do all the classes for Chartered Institute of Marketing, and you always want the collaboration as well. So if I'm on a Zoom or on my Teams and I'm just sitting talking to the screen for the whole time, you're not getting that collaboration. So when I'm up face to face with people, you'll be talking, you'll maybe split them out and put them into a group, and then they would work on a project. And again, they've just been able to produce more features with their software. So you get things like breakout rooms. So then you can break out the room, and then you go, right, that's you guys, you're in that room, you're a team together, and then you break into that room, and you go take 10-15 minutes, go and work on that project. The whiteboard functionality, so I use one called Miro, You can do like customer journey mapping, you can do whiteboards, you can do mind maps. There's lots of different tools that just really kind of grew out to kind of help with that collaboration with it. But you talk about the future of working, and I feel we're nearly, is it 2 years down the line, maybe nearly 2 years down
coming up to that.
That we've been doing this and we've been living this life, and now we're trying to get people back into the office environment. And I've been speaking to clients, speaking to friends that own businesses, and they're finding it hard with staff and trying to get staff back in to the workplace, because they're saying, I was productive at home.
Why do I need to come back?
Why do I need to come back? Surely I can still do the same job working from where I am. And they've got a point, they have got a point, because if they get the same productivity, because for them, they've also got a massive expense as well. So they've now got to go into the city centre, pay for parking, probably buy a lunch. That all adds up for them, whereas they were able to kind of jump out, do the same job
do
that they could.
Shop, you're there, it's cheap.
That they could do. I kind of disagree with it completely. I see it being a bit of a hybrid in the future, where you can, work from home, but you can also, work in the office. And I think it's important to work in the office mainly for learning, and you pick up so much just from hearing what people say. So me might not work in the same department as each other, right?
Yep.
So I'm working in the marketing department, you're maybe tech or software or sales. But just hearing you on the call, speaking to a customer, maybe dealing with an objection, maybe dealing with talking to them about the solutions of the product, I can sit and pick that up and learn that. You also miss even the banter and work as well. Like, how do you forge the relationships? So we talked about it in the past. I worked for a company called Gale. I have best friends from that company that we work together, and I went to the weddings and all the wives. We catch up at times. So how do you would miss out on that? Doing that via Zoom, like chatting to each other. You miss it. You only do these things for 40 minutes, an hour. How do you get that kind of out of work life? So that's where I think a hybrid would probably be better, and that's the way that I'd probably see it. But you're going to get very anxious business owners wanting people back and feeling that they didn't do it.
It's understandable though as well. I mean, I follow quite a lot of companies here in Glasgow. There's a company, MBN Solutions, they're a recruitment company, and Michael has this beautiful big office. It's on Mitchell Street, just in that corner. I think they've actually just recently moved, but it's like a 60-man office and it's empty. And he does these videos from time to time, and every time I watch them I kind of feel like a wee bit of kind of sadness, not in the sense of they're struggling, like they're doing great as a business, I can see, but you're thinking, he's paying that lease, they've got all day chairs, all day desks, all that kind of stuff. Because I remember we got to a stage with the kind of pandemic where we went, but that should be better to cast off the office, in the sense of we're not getting the utility out of it. I think the first 7 months or so we kind of rode it out, and we're thinking, right, this will be a couple of months, we'll be back. When it passes half a year and it's headed towards a full year, you're thinking, hold on, this is like a massive bill that we're paying every month, like thousands and thousands of pounds on lease, electricity, internet and so on. So then you're thinking, yeah, let's go remote. But for years, even before this all kicked off, people were asking for remote working. You probably noticed that yourself when you're doing interviews. A certain amount of your interviews were like, well, why can't I work remotely? And it depends on where they've worked. So if they've worked somewhere like that, they're almost like spoiled in a way. So when I'm looking at it as, I've took on 2 new hires and they're fully remote. So one of them's in Glasgow and one of them's out with the UK. And you're thinking, right, that's fair enough. But what about when I want to go back to the office? So I was saying to Anna, she's based over in Motherwell. And I'm like, look, I'm going to take an office anyway, because I feel I'm more productive in an office environment. Just so you're aware, there's going to be a desk there for you if you want to use it, but there's no pressure on you to use it, i.e. putting on the employee to kind of make that choice. But it does make me think, and I was talking to Ali about it in the sense of, if I expand that office, I want the bigger and the bigger and the bigger space, so you can get the boardroom and the meeting spaces and collaboration spaces. But if I don't have the staff in there, it's a lot of kind of utility for 1 or 2 people. But I think that's just the kind of reality. We're going to have like a really adverse pushback, I think, to when we're hiring people, because I'm thinking, are the staff wanting to kind of be based in an office?
Why do you think some bosses don't want people to work from home as well. Do you think it's a fear thing for them? Do you think that they don't trust their staff a lot?
Probably is a lack of trust. I think part of it will be, are the staff being productive? So I can't see what the staff are doing. Now, I only think that becomes an issue when the work's not getting done.
Mm-hmm.
So I would basically have, if I don't trust the person, arguably they shouldn't even be on the team. Because if you're getting into that kind of thing, right, well, we'll record the screens and we can do this and we can do that. I think trust is a two-way street, and it does have to be earned. Sadly, you can't just give that, but it's like by default, we'll trust you to work from home. These are your kind of objectives, these are your deadlines. If you get stuck, then you need to communicate that. So someone like Anna, fantastic, amazing at kind of telling me what she's working on and that kind of stuff. So I'm quite happy for her to just crack on and do what it is. And then it suits me just now. So in a way, when I'm jumping away for meetings, so if I have a meeting in Glasgow or we're coming here for the podcast, I don't feel guilty about that office sitting empty. Whereas in the past, I always kind of felt that, rightfully or wrongfully, the staff would be like, well, where's John? Why is John not seen fit to come in today? Or it's all right for him. I'm busting my ass here and he's not came in today. So there might be that kind of, is he having a, off on a jolly? Now, if they actually knew me, they would be knowing there's no way that I'm taking a day off. I'm probably doing something like networking or meetings. But there was almost like a guilt thing inside me in the sense of having to show face in the office at least a couple of times a day to kind of check in and show that's what it was. Now, I'd drive for like Paisley, the other side of Glasgow, right the way back to the office, so I could kind of just jump in for a wee bit and take a couple of calls just so they could see, oh, John is working today, he's there, or I would check in or phone them for the road, that kind of thing. But it was almost like a kind of attendance, like ticking a box, like, I am here, guys, I'm working hard like you as well, I want you to kind of understand we're all in this together kind of thing. Whereas I think right now, Anna's not really bothered whether I'm sitting in the office or not, because, well, she's not. So it's kind of, it doesn't really matter. And the work's getting done, so that's fine. But I do think, though, there's a couple of people I've hired over the years, and I'd be like, I don't know if I'd like them working remotely long term, because not that they're a bad person, but I just know that they'll get easily distracted and it affects their work.
Thing for us, it's different from different businesses, but for us, we've got that time doctor app, so that also works as a sort of clock in, clock out kind of procedure, because they're clocking in on the work, you can see that they're doing the work, they kind of clock out. So it doesn't really matter. It's like, they can be working from home but still working on the task, and essentially you're right. I don't care. I don't care what happens during the day as long as the work's done at the end. There's goals that we need to do, there's tasks that we need to do. Are they hit? Great. Are they not hit? Why would they not hit? Right.
And it has to be a bit of come and go. I mean, see if somebody takes I take a 2-hour lunch and then I work to 7 o'clock at night. Or I started an hour later but I worked 2 hours. You know what I mean? It's like you work it out. As long as your work's getting done, it doesn't affect. But I always think that comes into companies where there is problems. So it's like you're not meeting your deadlines, your quality's not very good, you're rushing things, there's lots of gaps, and then the client's suffering for that, and therefore the business is suffering for that. So you're kind of going, I can't get hold of John, he's meant to be doing that work, what do I do now? And you're left in a scenario where the client's going, well, what's my update? And you're thinking, I've not had a chance to speak to John yet, I can't get him on the phone today. And the client genuinely might be turning around and go, well, why is that? Whereas if you were in an office, you'd say, oh, you're back for lunch, mate, can I just grab you for 2 minutes, blah blah blah. So there's a lot of almost like checking, would you be available for a call, or could we have a quick 5 minutes meeting? One of the other things that I've done, and I didn't used to do this, but see, like I do the video audits and I kind of record in the screen. I'm finding myself recording the screen far more now as a method of communication. So like, say I'm giving feedback on a design to a designer, what I'll actually do now is, more than likely, rather than typing a big long email, I'll say, here's a recording on my screen, and I'll say, this bit here needs to be simplified, this would move over here, this is a typo, let's fix that, let's use this block for this other page and we'll put that there. And then if you get that kind of done, put it back on InVision for me and then let me know when you've done it. That'd be ideal. And I'd just literally take that video and drag it straight into WhatsApp. And you're thinking, well, where did that process live before? We weren't speaking on WhatsApp to staff. I wasn't doing videos to sort of communicate, because it would have been done verbally. But if you think about it, let's say they're like 2 hours into a coding exercise. It's probably better that they can pick up that video when it's convenient for them, rather than have you got 5 minutes, Mark? And you're like, and then like they're holding all the code in memory, like inside their head, thinking, right, that goes there, that algorithm, right, okay. You got 5 minutes? Sorry, what? And it's like, did you see the game last night? And they're like, No, I didn't, mate. And then they're like, starting again.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there's an inefficiency in it.
I'd agree with you. Like, we use different tools. Vidyard. I used to use Loom before that, but I find Vidyard really, really good.
I was looking at Loom last night. So what's the difference between something like that and OBS?
I've never used OBS. I've never used OBS.
I just use it because it's free. It's good.
Vidyard's free as well.
Was it?
And I think Loom was, but then started charging you for space. But Vidyard, I use Google Chrome. It's on my Google Chrome. We had it. Everybody in the team use it to talk to each other and share everything. It's a really good way to share a process, a really good way to share, what we've done. I'd been using it in the past for a long time, and it came from a customer survey. So I'd sent out a customer survey, and what I was doing was a little videos to say, this is how to do this. And they suggested, why don't you do your video? Why don't you do your reports like that? I thought that's a great idea. So at the end of the month, we all do
love it when clients give you free upgrades.
Well, we did a video. We do video reports, and we just say, right, this is what we worked on. This is what how many leads we got here. We see maybe a little drop here. This is what we're going to do. So I explain it, and it just saves so much time. So what they do is they come back and go, yeah, that's absolutely great. Whereas previously I would send a report and they go, I don't know what that means. What is this? Can we get on a call?
Can we get on a call?
So it
it's
saves so
like
much
doubling
time.
the work. You're doing the report and you're doing the call.
So I find the tools absolutely amazing.
Can I ask, so just for me as well, so when you're using like Vidyard or Loom and stuff, does it record the entire screen or does it just record the browser?
Records the entire. You can do things. You can record the browser, the entire screen. You can record yourself only with the screen. You can record yourself with the screen.
And then it does what, sucks it into like your Google Drive or saves it to your desktop?
No, it saves on their database. They give you a link, so it saves into their Vidyard account, gives you the link. I send the link. They can watch it from there. I've just recently paid for it, and now I can actually brand it up with Marketing Mavens.
Add your own stuff to it.
And add a call to action at the end of it. So I'm using it as part of prospecting now. So I'm basically like, instead of trying to phone people up, I'll do a little video and I'll say just to introduce myself, this is what it is, and then the video finishes, call to action, let's schedule a call.
What's been the uptake of that from a sales standpoint? People came back off the back of it?
People come back and want to book calls and things like that as well.
Good.
But it's just a numbers game. It's essentially again a numbers game. You're trying to get through a large number to get a number of calls to then.
Were you using that to their email or to LinkedIn or something?
LinkedIn just now, but I've done that in the past through their email as well, and doing it through an email marketing.
That's quite good.
One of the other things I was wanting to talk about, obviously, future in the workplace, and again talking about using teleconference software, and it's something I've actually started thinking about as I've been growing the team, is actually a lot of people probably don't think about this and there's a fear of it, but see if you're getting people work from home and they're in Motherwell, does it matter if they're in Motherwell or Pakistan or Motherwell in Australia or Motherwell in America?
No, not at all.
I mean, obviously there's a time difference in certain aspects, so they might not be able to jump on. If they're in Australia, they're going to because we've got a client that's in Australia. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. We've got to meet them at, and it's 7 o'clock or something like that there. So it's a different time zone, but we can still get on. We can still do the work. You're generally catching up. So when I'm coming the next day, it's there's their emails.
Well, I think there's advantages to two sides. So a couple of years back, I got the idea in my head, bit of a crazy idea, but I might still go back to it at some point. So if you heard it here first, this is where it came from.
Everybody in the podcast now.
But what I was thinking was a 24-hour agency, in the sense of imagine you ran it in shifts, right? So
that's
we have this idea. There you go. It's feeding the ideas. But what I thought is, right, so we clock off at say 5:30 or something like that, and then the clients are kind of thinking, right, well they might still have a need. And you were talking about it just a couple of podcasts ago, phoning you on a Sunday. But what if you engineered it in such a way that they could contact you Monday through Sunday, 24/7, no matter when they spoke to you, there was always someone, an account manager and team resources, and they use the advantage that we can work remotely to basically construct a network of people to say Argentina will cover this shift, or America we'll have somewhere Asia covering this kind of shift, and we'll have the UK, and we'll have our account managers that go around the clock. And I was kind of building towards that with the last company, thinking, right, that would actually be a really great thing for clients, because we offer 24/7 call out, so why would we not do 24/7 service?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that, you obviously know the fable, the kind of elves and the shoemaker. They cut out the soles of the shoes and all the pieces, and they come in the morning and a beautiful pair of shoes have been constructed. And there is a niceness to, you come in and the work is just done. So imagine phoning your client saying, right, well, effectively 18 hours of work has transpired since I spoke to you yesterday. So you know that way when you say to a client, right, we've done an all-nighter, we've got this kind of sorted for you, and the client's like, oh, this is great. But imagine that was a service all the time, and your client always felt like that, as if like, I just love this. You know, it's great. So I think it's definitely an advantage. But coming back to your point about remote staff, so I've hired staff from all around the world. I'm not fussed at all about where the staff come from. I'm more concerned about whether they can do the job and they can hit the quality. So I've hired people at £80,000 and working for like places like Hong Kong, and they were terrible. And I've hired people like less than that, and they're from like say Dubai or Argentina, and they're amazing. So to me, it's much more, we've opened up the world marketplace of skills, and I think one of the things, we're looking at things like Zoom and all the adoption of these technologies, but there's also like, we're forgetting about all this other culture that's going on, like the freelancing boom as well. So things like Upwork and Fiverr and various other sources, Mechanical Turk, they have all exploded massively. They've become much more prevalent because people are realising now, if I put a job in LinkedIn, I could get somebody for the Philippines, I could get somebody for India, I could get someone from Manchester or Dublin applying for the job and saying, I'm really interested in this, but actually I want to live in the countryside with my family and have like a good quality balance of life. And I'm thinking, that's great, as long as you do the job, fair enough.
But you think about it as a business owner, you're hiring the pool of talent across the central belt of Scotland, because we're in Glasgow. You might be able to get down in UK, but you're probably, somebody's down in London, they need to get the upheaval, move their family, do all that sort of stuff. You can now open yourself out to a pool of talent globally. You do not need to then just get somebody in the central belt. You can actually go, look, everybody in the world that's in marketing, I want the best of the best of the best in marketing, but they're in Houston, Texas. Well, they can still work for you in Houston, Texas. Yeah, the time zones might be a little bit different, but they can still be a team member, still be.
Well, that was actually the thing I was going to say, is see, most of the time when you put out a job and you say it's a UK based role, they will actually change their time zone to yours. So like when I had people in Asia working for us, they actually aligned their day to our day, and that's common actually for when you do that. So it's like
it's like they're working night shift or something.
Exactly. So they know they're going to get a better salary, but in a roundabout way, if you think about it, you have the advantage of like you have your day to yourself.
That's a really, really good point.
Go down to the beach or go to the cities or whatever.
Because it makes so much sense. You would, if I was doing it in a bit like that, well, just work night shift.
Well, imagine you can get paid US wages or Stockholm wages, which is a far more kind of prevalent economy. We would make an absolute fortune. I remember when we were hiring for Amazon engineers, so we're looking for AWS skill set. And I'm all for boosting the Scottish economy and trying to keep things in the UK and giving people an opportunity, but the talent pool just wasn't there. We didn't have enough senior resources to work with the type of clients we had, so we were forced to basically go outside the UK. And I'm thinking, right, well, Amazon have data centres in places like Dublin, they have data centres in Austin, so we're looking at like, where are the data centres, because you might find Amazon graduates or people that have went through their kind of programs that are more familiar with the Amazon stack. And when I was looking at it that way, we actually went to the US and we were looking at it and saying, right, would you be interested in doing it as like a contractor, just to try and help us supplement our own staff for out of hours and on call and such like. And the guy quoted us back almost treble what we would charge as an agency back to us as a contractor per hour. And I'm thinking, wow, I couldn't even cover that, never mind make a profit on it. But then it also kind of dawned on me, and I said, well hold on. Like looking at it through a different lens, that's a business opportunity, because we could be selling our resources into America, and America could be getting a better bang for buck. London certainly gets a better bang for buck, and I know quite a lot of agencies up here that a lot of their clients are down in London, and it's kind of like they put two and two together and realised, hang on, if I hire a Manchester agency or a Scottish agency, I'm probably going to get a lot more spread or yield on my money, providing they have the staff. But then it makes me think, maybe we're hunting in the wrong place. Maybe we shouldn't be hunting in Glasgow and Edinburgh. Maybe we should be looking, where are the big economies, but then how do we place it? Because even like Scotland is a knockdown price in comparison to some places. Try and hire a marketing agency in New York and imagine how your prices compare.
And even London as well.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's absolutely. But so and that's what I think, to reduce the anxiety of certain business owners, they should look at it a little bit differently. So if they do embrace that hybrid way of working, or even fully, remote working, they could actually open their talent pool up.
More
massively.
talent, more profit,
Exactly.
more flexibility, better for the client.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kind of positives, although I do think there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear in business owners about could I trust that?
But
they're
I don't
in a
think they
different
know the
country,
technology. There's so much technology.
They can check on it.
There's so much technology now that they just don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like Time Doctor, I can even if they did work in a different hour, I can come in the next day and go, "Oh, they were working. They weren't working." You can see straight away. Even in Teams. Is it not in Teams? And if you're all in a Teams company, there's a wee green dot, so you're available, and the red dot, so you're all online. That you can even see there that you're available, you're doing stuff. There has to be a level of trust.
Yeah, of course. Most of the things, I think the problem is things can be falsified, and you see it all the time. They added tracking logistics into the couriers, and that's what happened. See, the guys had the trackers in the lorries, but then they worked out, well, hold on, if you put a magnet against the tracker, that just blacks out the tracker. So it's like people are, human beings are engineers by default, so we're problem solvers.
Yeah.
We think about like, he can see me there, but if I just say I've got connection issues, you know what I mean? It's like crisp packet, connection issues, camera drops out, oh sorry, my internet's down today. I mean, what would a company realistically say? And if I was working for you and I said, my internet's down, mate, really sorry, I'm trying to use the data on my phone, but it's went right through it, can I? I mean, if you're paying my data, it'd be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's back to you again.
But that's the thing, it's come down to trust. They don't feel trusted, so they're going to just try and break the rules and put magnets and things on there as well. I definitely think there's a generational thing. There's like, the older generation, they weren't born into a digital world or a technical world. I was
going to say, where's this comment going? That could be a really dangerous comment.
It can be, but I find that maybe the baby boomers, the Generation X type of people that are in that are managers and bosses at the time, they're the ones that don't trust it. Yeah, because they don't know the technology and they don't know the power.
They're
of the
not
technology.
familiar to managing a team that.
Whereas
I'm looking at a guy in the eyes and go, "You got my report done?" And I'm like, "No, I don't know if he's working on it."
Whereas the younger generation, like so, even we're probably millennials, who then became into a digital world. But even the young, like my daughters are all like born into a digital world. Like all they know is digital things and apps and things. They teach me sometimes in different apps, so they're picking up this all the time. And they're learning about this all the time. So when they're like, think about their future, they'll probably like that, cool, that we've got this, we know exactly. And think how the technology's grown as well, it'll be massively as well. So I think, generational, I think that's why there's a bit of a fear that they don't know what they can do with their staff, and actually they could probably use it a lot better. They could get a lot more profit with their business and stuff like that if they used it better.
I think the situation that we just went through is definitely rewritten history as well. Yep. So it's like, from my understanding, definitely my viewpoint, I'll just put it out there, was QR codes were dead. Mm-hmm. They were completely dead. It was like, do not resuscitate on death. Yep. That's the status that we're in. But because they track and trace, now everyone, even the kind of most technologically adverse people, are kind of going, oh, how do you work it? But they've been forced, kicking and screaming into this. We do things like this on Zoom. We do stuff like that with QR codes. We do this with such and such. So it's like, it's funny. So now QR codes have become like a thing again, like probably what they should have been, because now people can't really push back against it, because it's like that is actually the most efficient way of bringing you to a website. It's amazing to see it. Why don't you wrap us up, Mark?
So essentially my business belter for today is definitely, I think, embrace the future of the business and using teleconference software. I would say have a hybrid way of working, and be flexible. I think now we can add a bit of flexibility in. We can say, if you've got something on in the morning, right, cool, you can work from home, but then can I come in the afternoon and maybe do that, fit around your kind of life, because what you're going to get is you're going to get happy employees. And what do happy employees give you? More productivity, more work, less sick days, not wanting to move. So you will save money in the long run with this new hybrid way of working. But first, embrace it. What about you? What's your business better?
I would concur with that in the sense of, like, keep the flexibility there. I would try and look at it as an opportunity in the sense of stop trying to fight things and put it back to the way it was, and look at it more as what opportunities it's brought about. So networking has become better, even though I'm a big face-to-face person, I like it in person. Networking has definitely become a lot stronger because we've done this. networking's up, profits are up, businesses are happening, we're doing more remote staff. So everything in many metrics is improved, despite the fact that it's a pretty challenging business environment. But I think it's the people that embrace that change and they can make it work for them. Those are the companies that are going to come out of this massively ahead. But I think that this is probably closer to what things are going to be like now, in the sense of we will have that hybrid. Sure, there'll be an office, but I think its kind of role will change. And I think probably it'll go more like pods, you know, like kind of isolated satellite offices that are smaller, and it gives staff an ability to collaborate and gather together, kind of like tribalism, you know, like they'll gather around the fire and share knowledge and work on something as a project together, and then they'll disperse and they'll go on their hunting parties and their separate kind of ways of dealing with it. I could see that happening with the kind of business as well.
Excellent. Okay, so that's a wrap. Thank you very much for tuning in today. We talked today about the future of working, and it would be really great to find out from you how you feel about the future of the workplace. What sort of things that you're going to put in place for your business? Are you going to, you know, bring staff all back at the one time? Are you going to implement a teleconference type solution into your business as well? And as always, if you like the podcast, please can you share it, like it, give it a heart, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we will be giving you these every week. Thanks very much, and it's a goodbye from me.
Goodbye for him. See you next week, guys.